Kurapika has become the eye of the storm that is the succession contest, a role that he never planned on taking but has reluctantly fallen into as potentially our only hope of ending this arc with a good outcome. But let's step back a bit. While Scott and Killua were playing Nen video games and doing something with ants, Kurapika had been a very busy boy, collecting the scarlet eyes of the Kurta clan from a wide variety of individuals, including a teacher, lawyer, musician, investor, priest, doctor, swindler, board member, tycoon, religious founder, politician, and an artist. Filthy artists. But this is very much Togashi's nihilism on full display here, selecting people across the widest possible range of society in order to say, yeah, most humans, they just kinda suck. They want your eyes, your pretty sparkly eyes. However, Kurapika at this moment is on the verge of completing his quest. There's just one large batch of Kurta eyes missing that he's been unable to track down. And one day he was approached by a man dressed as a cow offering him this information. All of which is due to the actions of a dog woman, because in order to sell the idea of the Hunter Association going to the Dark Continent, Chairman Cheadle Yorkshire invited old mate Leorio to join the Zodiacs. As following the chairman election, both Jing and Pariston resigned from their positions as Boar and Rat respectively. And because Leorio had, admittedly accidentally, made quite the name for himself during that election, he was, and is still currently, the most popular and respected hunter within the entire association. So for the sake of unity, Cheadle needed Leorio on board with this idea, and quite literally on board the Black Whale 1. But while Leorio's name is a big deal, he was offered a more minor role as part of Cheadle's medical team in order to give Leorio some serious doctoring experience. So Leorio accepted the position, and he then went on to say a thing that has changed the course of this entire story, which is that he made a recommendation for Kurapika to fill Pariston's former job as the Rat Zodiac. He also informed Cheadle of Kurapika's quest to find the Scarlet Eyes of the Kurta clan, and cow enthusiast Mizai Storm Nana was sent to meet Kurapika with a proposition. The trade offer is as such: Kurapika joins the Hunter Association on their Dark Continent voyage, and in exchange, they tell Kurapika who the owner of the last batch of Scarlet Eyes is, which happens to be 4th Prince Saradnik of the Karkin Empire, who will conveniently be aboard the vessel. So look, if something were to happen to him or the eyes along the way, then that certainly would be quite the tragedy now, wouldn't it? So Kurapika accepted the position. Although it should be said that after brutally killing Uvogin, Kurapika has very much avoided taking any more lives. He acquired all of the other eyes through buying, scamming, or threatening, but not by killing. And in regards to the 4th Prince, Kurapika says the following: "There were people who told me they would rather die than hand them over, but they changed their minds without dying. It will be the same with the prince. However, look, I'm not so sure about that, because we do actually catch a glimpse of Saradnik's collection at one point, with him sitting on a throne of bones with the Scarlet Eyes prominently positioned behind him, but rather curiously, there's also the head of a young child, which looks disturbingly like Kurapika's childhood friend Pyro. And if Kurapika ever sees that head, then he is going to completely lose his. However, there was an ulterior motive for selecting Kurapika to fill the rat position. The Zodiacs didn't just bend over after Leorio's throbbing recommendation, and one of the motives is immediately explored by Kurapika, as his first question was how many allies beyond Netero had within the Hunter Association, something which both Mizai Storm and Cheadle had been considering for quite some time. And so it was revealed that Kurapika was chosen to become a Zodiac because of how disconnected he was to the association, and how unlikely it would have been for him to be one of Beyond's spies, because there are any number of supremely qualified Hunter Association members that could have filled this role. The issue being that there's no way to know who's a filthy spy. Kurapika, Mizai Storm, and Cheadle then deduced that there was a spy within the Zodiacs, partially because of how easily Pariston left the organization, indicating that his spy was already in place. Kurapika was then able to use a combination of Emperor Time and Dowsing Chain to enhance his perception to the point where he can become a human lie detector, which was used to shockingly easily discover that Sayu is the spy within the Zodiacs. And the current plan is to arrest Sayu right before reaching the new continent, aka the fake Dark Continent. However, Kurapika won't be a part of that team because he's caught up elsewhere. Kurapika was actually praised by Pariston Hill after he stopped Beyond's assassins passing the Hunter exam, which he did through the same lie detector ability that he used to find Sayu, but Pariston stated, "It seems the one who joined the Zodiacs in my place is quite competent," which I love because that's Pariston assuming that none of the existing Zodiacs could have possibly thwarted his rat plans, because he considers the rest of them to be complete and utter dumbasses. Although this actually led to a pretty big problem that we're still dealing with. Because Kurapika was so effective in weeding out Beyond's agents in the Hunter exam, they all applied for jobs as bodyguards of the Karkin princes. So in addition to not knowing which bodyguards are loyal to which prince or queen, we have an extra layer of issues with bodyguards who are loyal to Beyond Netero, and who may actively be adding to the chaos of the succession contest in order order to mask their actions. So for us to keep them in check, members of the Hunter Association would then also need to apply for bodyguard positions, which was quite a convenient turn of events for our Kurapika, because his primary goal during this voyage is to retrieve the Scarlet Eyes from 4th Prince Cyrodinik. So naturally, he offered to lead this effort, and he subsequently put together a personal team of hunters to infiltrate the princes. This elite team consists of Kurapika's closest ally, Melody, the music hunter, who's on a quest to find the Sonata of Darkness, a piece of music said to be composed by Satan himself, and is one of those many things that may or may not have a connection to the Dark Continent. Meanwhile, the second member of Kurapika's hit squad is Izunavi, who is actually Kurapika's Nen mentor, sort of, which is literally what it says in Izunavi's reintroduction box, sort of. But he is an incredibly knowledgeable or a veteran and a highly skilled martial artist, but probably not as skilled as our third member Hanzo, a ninja from the Hidden Cloud Village, seeking an elusive item known as the Hermit Scroll. Hanzo gave his ninja business card to Kurapika at the end of the Hunter exam, so it's very nice to see that little throwaway thread coming back. And it's also nice to see 4th squad member Basho, a troubled poet who aims to end smoking by developing a substance known as Clean Leaf, which, when smoked, actually makes people healthier than they were before. And while aboard the Black Whale 1, I'd also like it noted that Basho participated in a rap battle. Meanwhile, the final member of Kurapika's personal team is a very familiar biscuit-shaped face, who was recommended to Kurapika by Killua, as Kurapika had not previously met Bisky. Each of these 5 individuals were then tasked with applying for a bodyguard job, and their main mission, as given by Kurapika, is to find as much information as possible about the 4th Prince. And Kurapika himself is not exempt from this, as he also applied with the intention of being hired by 9th Prince Hulkenberg, who has the most amicable relationship to Cyrodinik of all of the siblings. However, then something happened that took Kurapika and us by surprise. On the day of his job interview, he was greeted by Queen Oito and her baby, 14th Prince Wobble, who had very cleverly made Kurapika think that he was applying for a job with Hulkenberg. The queen, that is, not the baby. And the whole application process is a bit of a political mess. Each prince who wanted to post them had to post anonymous applications. So there are all sorts of mind games at play here, with certain princes trying to represent themselves as other princes, in order to get the best protection they could and avoid as many assassins targeting them personally as possible. And this is where Kurapika was informed of the true nature of the Dark Continent voyage. Queen Oito divulged that the succession contest would take place during the journey, although as the lowest ranking of all of the queens, Oito was not privy to many of the key details. However, in a mixture of sympathy and ambition, Kurapika accepted the job, and he vowed to protect Prince Wobble. Oito then asked if Kurapika would like to hold baby Wobble, and Kurapika's expression softened for the first time during this arc. And one of Kurapika's ongoing struggles is now being torn between seeking peace for his slaughtered clan members and protecting the innocent life of the future. For the whole series, Kurapika, he's been a man stuck in the past, consumed by enacting retribution for his clan, his already dead clan. And regardless of whether or not Kurapika succeeds with that, the clan, they're still gone. We're not doing much about that. However, here for the first time, Kurapika has actually been forced to think about preserving life rather than avenging death. And with that in mind, we fairly abruptly cut to the commencement of the succession contest, and immediately after the Black Whale 1 departs, Kurapika discovered a dead bodyguard in the bathroom of Prince Wobble's quarters, and then 4 more dead bodyguards in the storage area, and then everyone else died as well. Which also led to the very disturbing realization that the majority of his fellow bodyguards had no idea the succession contest was being conducted, and they were on the verge of being eliminated before even a single evening had passed. Part of the problem here is self-inflicted by Kurapika, because 3 of the bodyguards hired by Wobble were part of Beyond Netero's team, who were only here because Kurapika blocked their ability to pass the Hunter exam. And because these agents were all placed here by Pariston, they had no information about the contest, and to be fair, it's unlikely that Pariston knew about it either, hence all of the desperate ignorance, which has now resulted in every one of Wobble's bodyguards being killed, except for Kurapika and Bill, the latter of which is a member of Beyond Netero's team, and we should never forget that. There is one positive aspect to this, because at the very least, Kurapika and Bill now know that there aren't any spies left, at least not spies that are loyal to other princes anyway, so they're free to strategize fairly openly, which most princes are not. And on the verge of elimination, Kurapika has come up with some very risky plans. Kurapika has thus far conducted 2 deadly gambits during the succession contest, the first of which was publicly announcing the presence of Nen Beast and Nen itself. Remember Nen, it's a very secretive topic in the Hunt Hunter world. You can't just reveal its existence to anyone. The Hunter Association has very few taboos, but this is a pretty big one. That's why they have a whole exam to determine who is and who is not allowed to learn about Nen, because if that power falls into some very undesirable hands, then there is no telling what kind of evil could be unleashed onto the world. Case in point, after hearing Kurapika's announcement, 4th Prince Cyrodinik became obsessed obsessed with learning more about Nen, to the point where he has now become one of the most single gifted and talented Nen users we've ever seen, which is very not good, as noted by Theta, who has identified that Cyrenic is a man who should never ever acquire Nen, and it's a bit too late for that now. But Kurapika's plan is to essentially reveal as much information about Nen to every prince who doesn't already know about it, with the idea of stalling for time as all of the princes are working on their assorted Nen puzzles, and also to build the power of the princes ideally to force a stalemate, which has worked to some degree, with first Prince Benjamin's Nen-trained private army admitting that they had lost most of their key advantage. And what's happening right now is very much a Nen arms race, with Kurapika aiming to position himself as the vendor. And so what he's done is offer a 2-week Nen training course to any prince who wished to take him up on that offer, many of which did, and so they sent representatives to Kurapika's daily Nen school to begin their tuition. Now look, we all know that Nen cannot be learned in 2 weeks, at least not via the appropriate methods. Generally, even the most gifted needs 6 months to master the basic principles, whereas your average person could take like 6 years, which is why right now every hunter associated with the princes are lying through their teeth to keep Kurapika's story intact. They're providing cover to buy as much time as they can to reach the new continent. But Kurapika has also conducted a second gambit. Through a series of circumstances frankly beyond his control, Kurapika has been given an opportunity to form alliances with both 3rd Prince Sanglei and 5th Prince Tebepa. He's also arranged a ceasefire with 9th Prince Hawkenberg and made a similar proposal to 13th Prince Mariam's team, with the ultimate goal of building a coalition of princes. However, it's a dangerous proposition because he's sharing a lot of information with 4 factions who, theoretically, are best served by the death of Prince Wobble and Kurapika himself. And the more princes he adds to this coalition, the more points of potential failure there are in his plan. So our boy is on a bit of a knife's edge, and every new thing we learn about his situation puts Kurapika's survival in doubt. For example, one vital thing we've learned about Kurapika during this arc is a very drastic condition for him to activate Emperor Time, which is that it shortens his life by 1 hour for every second the ability remains active. And Kurapika has admitted that he was naive when creating these conditions for Emperor Time, and that it's a far more dangerous ability than he ever could have imagined, which at one stage cost him bigly, as after several hours of needing to keep Emperor Time active, Kurapika was struck with a piercing pain and fainted. Kurapika was then unconscious for 9 hours with Emperor Time still active, meaning that he had it activated for a total of 12 hours. So doing maths, this one event cost him nearly 5 years of his life, and he can't stop using this ability anytime soon. It is the only thing giving him the power to remain in this contest. And what's worse is that Kurapika, by setting up his Nen school, has invited a series of brand new threats right into Prince Wobble's quarters, because many of Kurapika's quote students are already Nen users and thus likely there to serve as assassins. One of which we've already seen, which is the Nen ability Silent Majority, wielded by an as of yet unknown person. However, it is slowly killing off Kurapika's students and has commenced a death game within a death game, as the races now want to find and halt the user of Silent Majority before it kills everyone. So Kurapika's quest to forge a stalemate could very well be speeding up his own demise, especially because people are starting to suspect that he might be the one behind it, and using this opportunity to slowly deplete the other princes of guards. So TLDR, he's in a very bad situation, and the idea of Kurapika even surviving to reach the Dark Continent may very well be too much to ask.